All right, as we await details of the president's immigration plan, a debate is raging over the legal limits of presidential authority. Critics say President Obama is overstepping his constitutional powers, but University of Chicago law professor Eric Posner disagrees, writing in a New York Times op-ed, quote, "The only difference between the president and his predecessors is that the president has openly declared the de facto policy of his predecessors. We might disagree about whether this move is wise, but it's not a constitutional violation." Let's ask our guests. Julian Epstein, former legal counsel to the House Judiciary Committee and a former staff director for the House Government Reform Committee. Jordan Sekulow is executive director of the American Center for Law and Justice. All right, Jordan, I'll start with you. So is the president just doing what all presidents before him have done?
Absolutely not. You know, this is a president who is trying to act like he's doing what presidents have done in the past without the legislative authority to do so. We're going to hear a lot of talk about Reagan. We're going to hear a lot of talk about Bush 41. The truth is there was a law then, 1986. They were acting on their authority under the law. There are specific provisions in that law that let them do these limited grants, deferred prosecutions for specific individuals that Congress wanted to cover, and by 1990 did cover. Their executive orders were no longer necessary. Where is the law the last 3 decades? Nearly 3 decades, we don't have another comprehensive reform. So unless President Obama is going to be pointing back to a law which is about people who came to the U.S. before 1982, then he's got no legislative authority to do this.
All right, Julian, he himself said that. We've got 25 times here that he said, I'm not an emperor, I can't do it, I can't do an end run around Congress, it's not legal, I can't defend it, I can't do it. Tonight, he's going to say I can do it.
Well, it depends what it means when you're speaking there. And to Mr. Sekulow's point, I mean, Bush 41 granted deferred action for 1.4 million without any statutory authority.
You know how many people
whatsoever.
that actually, though, took up that option?
Please, I didn't interrupt you.
Okay.
We're talking about over 5 million tonight.
Okay,
well, I think we can have a better conversation if we don't interrupt each other.
We'll take turns. All right,
so
Julian,
Bush granted action for 1.4 million people without statutory authority. So almost every president since Eisenhower has done this. The statute, in fact, the INS statute,
the 1986 law,
clear.
as I said, Julian, did give him that authority.
Hold on. Just hold on. I'll give you a chance to respond.
Jordan, I just don't think it helps to keep interrupting me.
Gentlemen, Jordan, I'll give you a chance to fully respond. So let's let Julian finish.
I think the immigration statute is pretty clear that the president does have this authority. I think the Supreme Court has interpreted presidents as having broad authority when it comes to deferred action. I think, as I said, every president pretty much since Eisenhower has done this. Now, Jordan may want to make the argument that this is overstepping the authority. I think you can make that argument. I think this is testing the outer limits of the president's authority. But I think most legal experts believe that they will lose that case if they go into court. This is a temporary action. This is a question of the president deciding, prioritizing which illegal immigrants, which undocumented immigrants he is, in fact, going to deport. This president has been deporting a record number of undocumented immigrants, 400,000 a year. It's all Congress has authorized. So, yes, you can make the legal argument. I think you can make a coherent legal argument. Is it likely to win in the courts? I think very unlikely to win in the courts.
I want to make sure that we give you both a chance here, but and to verify, just factually, when you look at the numbers of deportations, and Julian, you mentioned they're extremely high at this point. We're told, and it's strictly factual information, that a huge chunk of those is just turning people around at the border and saying, turn around and go back. That's not what most people think of when they think of deportations. All right, Jordan, response.
Well, first, this is not just about the deferred prosecutions. This is also about a substantive right that's planned to be granted by the president tonight, the right to work. So we're not just talking about the president saying who we're going to deport right now. We're talking about the president on his own, without any legislative authority, saying now this group has the right to work in the United States. And I don't know, Julian, where you can take those other precedents and say, okay, deportations and deciding who to prosecute and that kind of discretion. And now you can take that same power as the president and decide what group of people gets a right to work in the United States, what group is covered, what group isn't covered, without any legislative authority.
So I would just point out to Jordan, I would just, again, I would just study your history a little bit closer. President Bush 43 gave work permits to undocumented immigrants.
Those
after
were in times
Katrina.
of emergency. I think people would say the president has that power.
But that's in the INS. That's in the ICE rules and regulations that were in place before Obama took office. You just claimed in the first segment that no president has ever done anything as sweeping without clear statutory authority. I gave you an exact example.
This is 5 million
I gave
people
you an
we're talking
example.
about, Julian.
Jordan, please stop interrupting me. I gave you an example of
Stop
Bush
telling
41
me that I'm not
doing
right,
it.
though, because you're talking about example of emergency situations.
gentlemen.
That's executive power.
Bush 41 was not.
Gentlemen.
Bush 41 was not an emergency. I gave you an example. You didn't respond to it. Your facts are wrong here.
Okay.
And you're
Clearly, we are going to have to agree to disagree. But next time, let's get all three of us in the same room, and I think maybe we can even sell tickets. It's going to be interesting. I appreciate Julian and Jordan hearing from both of you, and I have a feeling there's a lot of this going on Capitol Hill right now. See you later. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
We'll be talking a little bit more about that. Some Republican members of Congress shooting a letter over to the White House on why the president should not take action that he intends to take on immigration. We'll tell you what it says and talk to one of its authors, Congressman Michael McCaul, chairman of the Homeland Security Committee.